Welcome. I'm so glad that you could be here virtually, even though we can't be at the convention. And I wanted to do this video so that I could do a little bit of like what I do when you are at the convention. I love to talk about books. I love to share the new books that I found this season. And I thought I would share some of them with you, and then you can get an idea. And if anybody is interested in talking to me personally about books, please feel free to email me at findingchristbooks@cox.net, and my email is on the website. And email me. I'll be glad to talk to you about books. We can Zoom and just really have a good conversation about books. So feel free to do that. But I'm going to give you a few of my top picks for this year that I absolutely love. This is a great series. I'm going to try to go by age group. So we're going to start with the young ones. And this is a Faith That God Built series by Gary Bauer. Just amazing, uh, beautifully illustrated, fun rhythm to it. I actually have on my blog called Storytime, one of my blogs, and I did this story actually on it. And this is called The Frightening Philippi Jail. And you can just see some of the sing-songy parts of this. This is a cell with a horrible smell in the frightening Philippi jail. These are the bugs and the rats and the slugs that crawled on the crooks and the thieves and the thugs who sulked in the cell with a horrible smell in the frightening Philippi jail. And you can just see this is just a fun series, and he has Hurry Up, Exit from Egypt, the Beautiful Garden of Eden, and then the other one that he has is the Patch on the Peak of Ararat. So that's a great illustrated series for those young ones that you have. Keeps them interested. Another new series this year is by Susan Marlowe, and she's the one who did the Circle C Adventures for the girls. She did all about the horses, and then she also did Jem, the Gold Town Adventures, which are a little bit older boys. But what she did this year, she did Gold Town Beginnings. And these are 4 books so far in the series that she has. Jem Strikes Gold, Jem's Frog Fiasco, Jem and the Mystery Thief, and then the 4th one is Jem Digs Up Trouble. Just wonderfully written, great illustrations, fun for that beginner readers who need some good books. Another series that I always recommend, even though they're not necessarily newer because we've had them for a while, these are actually a series that we've published, and it's called the Jack and Jenny Mystery Series. And this is for about 8 to 11-year-olds. And one thing that we did when we published these is it's written by Anthony Ballback, but we tried to make it so that the printing is a little bit bigger for that 8 to 11-year-olds that just need that. Just a great series. Jack and Jenny go with their family to Hong Kong. They meet Tim and Ruth Chen and their family. They start sharing Christ with them, and it's neat to see what happens on their adventures. So there's 6 books in all in that series, and so just wanted to let you know about them. Another series that, again, we have the Addie McCormick Adventures. This is A Stranger in the Attic, The Secret in the Scrapbook, and The Mystery of the Missing Statue. And these are ones that we also have published. There's a 4th one coming out. Hopefully by the end of this year, the 4th one's going to be there available. So this is maybe 9 to 12, 9 to 13. And even though it is Addie McCormick, and that's a girl's name, my son, when he was that age, he absolutely loved them. So great for both boys and girls. There's a new book series out by Chuck Black. Now, some of you are familiar with the Kingdom series and Knights of Eritrea. Well, Chuck Black wrote this series, and it's called The Star-Lore Legacy, and this is the first book in it, Nova. And I read it and reviewed it, loved it, lots of fun. It's a science fiction, different than the Kingdom series, but still excellent. He has quite a few of them coming out in the Legacy, and actually the 2nd book, Flight, is now available, so that will be also on our website. So all of these are available on our website. As we move to a little bit older, now that, you know, that's like your 10 to 14, 15, although as an adult, I enjoyed it. So we have some young adult books that, and adults enjoy them too. So we have Goth that we've already had out for a couple of years. The 2nd one is coming out called Masquerade. So the great thing about this is when this series is called Behind the Shadows. And there's a lot of things that we sometimes miss and we don't realize that they're behind the shadows, and we make judgments on things, such as this young man. People judge him when he comes to this new school because he dresses goth, so they think that he's no way could he be a Christian, but he actually is. And he starts sharing Christ with his new friends and starts changing their lives. Really, Christ does it through him. Lots of difficult things happen to him in this first book, and then through the whole series, there's a theme of human trafficking that we wanted to weave in. The author, Kim Cock, has done a great job of weaving in about this trafficking theme because we want kids and young people to be aware of it. We've done it in a way that's not too graphic, but just an excellent series. That's Behind the Shadows, and Masquerade will be out, Lord willing, in July. So we're looking forward to that. Another series that we've talked about before, but I still love, is a biblical fiction series. And we have several that I'm going to talk about here, biblical fiction. This one is the Promise series, written by Robert Wetmore. And in this series, it's about Adam and Eve, the two trees. The second one is about Noah and the flood, the end of all flesh. And the third one's about the tower, and that's a Tower of Babel. And Bob Wetmore has done a great job of using imagination, but bringing the story to life so that you really get a feel of what it might have been like living in those times. And he also teaches doctrine through the story without you even realizing that that's happened. And just a great biblical fictions that he's written. Just love these stories. They really keep you interested and want to keep reading more. Another author that I love for biblical fictions is Tessa Afshar. She's written some ones about Old Testament women, and she did one about Rahab that was fabulous, fabulous. And then this one is Land of Silence, and that is also another one is Thief of Corinth. So these are some New Testament women. She's an amazing writer. Just really gets you again to understand what it was like, what was going on at that time period, so we can really, then the Bible comes to life when we understand it from these authors. Another author that I love who's done a biblical fiction is Tracy Groot. So when I read this book, it's called The Brother's Keeper, and this is about James, the brother of Jesus. And you know, I had never thought about what James must have felt like when his brother left. Here, his older brother, the one who was supposed to take over the business, the one who was his best friend probably, and he left because, of course, Jesus went to minister when he was 30. And how did that make James feel? And this book brings it to life. And she also has us think about, you know, there were a lot of people that were trying to follow Jesus just because he was doing all these miracles. And it even talks about how some of them would come to Jesus's house in, you know, Nazareth, and want to touch something there because maybe they would have power from it. And, you know, how upset it made some of his family members, and, you know, just normal stuff that you might think about. So wonderfully written book. Loved this. When I finished this book, I felt like I knew James. And then when I read James, you know, in the Bible, I read the book of James again after that. And again, I felt like I knew James a little bit better than I had before. So just a great book. Some other, we could call them young adult and adult books that I found were this year. So this is Janice Cantore, and she wrote The Cold Case Justice. And so this one is Drawing Fire, Burning Proof, and Catching Heat. So these are some cop books, cop mysteries. She was a cop in LA, so the books are very realistic in that. And that's one thing I loved about them, because she knows her stuff. And so when she wrote about him, she did a great job of writing about him. And then she also wrote another one, which is called Visible Threat. This is the second one in her in this set. And this one is actually about human trafficking. And of course, anytime I can find a book that will show about human trafficking in a way that's not too explicit, but still gets you to realize about it and how serious it is, I love that. And she's an excellent writer, so she, you know, you get two things in one right there. Okay, and Terry Blackstock has out a new one, relatively new, called Smokescreen. It's a single novel. It's not a series. So I really enjoyed this book. Great, about a firefighter. Another good one that we have is called Trust and Deception. This one's been out for a little while, but excellent book by Melissa Troutman. It's about an FBI agent who goes undercover, and what ends up, he's investigating a murder, and of course he finds out some other things as he goes through that. All right, so a couple of books that aren't fiction, even though mostly we do have fiction, but we also have Growing in Christ books. So I wanted to share a couple of them that I thought were great. This is by Shanti Feldhahn, and she's written a couple of fictions. And when she was writing her fictions books, she started interviewing men to find out how men think. And she was kind of surprised that they thought so differently than she would have thought. And so she began to write down, the answers to these questions. And she and her husband have begun to research them and have done many, many years now of researching. And they wrote a book for women only and for men only, kind of started because of her fiction book that she wrote. And they're really good. So for men to read this so they can understand their wives, and for women to read this so that we can understand our husbands. And I'm really enjoying these books. And I went to a Love Like You Mean It cruise just recently from Family Life, and they were speakers there. And she blew me away in some of the things she said that our guys think that I had not known. And I've been married for 33 years. So excellent book to really help grow your marriage. Another book just to grow you. This is actually my copy, so it's a little bit worn and written in, but it's called A Praying Life. And I love this book by Paul Miller. And this book has been out for a few years. This is the second time I'm going through it. And this time I'm really taking it in, and I'm doing a Bible study with it with our women at church on Zoom. So we're having a lot of fun with that. Even though we have coronavirus going on right now, we're still having a lot of fun with doing the Zoom Bible study. And the thing I like this is connecting to God in a distracting world. This book really helps you to learn how to come to God with who you are, not being perfect in prayer before you can pray to God, coming to him helpless, coming to him in your mess, and just growing to know him and love him more and more. Just a fabulous, fabulous book about prayer. And another book that I read because I was preparing for my prayer study is this book called Aching Joy, and it's by Jason Haig. And Jason Haig has an autistic son, and this talks about what happens when prayer doesn't get answered. What happens when your autistic son is still autistic, even though you know that God can heal him. And he walks through a journey of how he deals with that, of years of trying to deal with that and trying to deal with unanswered prayer. And I found this book fabulous and really helped me a lot with some unanswered prayer that my family's been dealing with for 11 years. And just so grateful that people are willing to share their lives and their hearts with that. This book, Invading the Darkness, was written by Linda Smith. She is the one who started Shared Hope International, an organization that I am part of as an ambassador, just a volunteer position, trying to talk to people to help them be aware of human trafficking. And this is a book, kind of how this whole trafficking started, because trafficking's been going on for years, but really how it's happened in our country and we didn't realize it was going on. And so it's just the historic fight against child sex trafficking in the United States. Very well done, very informative, and helps you to realize, wow, this has been going on for a little while. Another book that I read this last year that I really liked was Defying Jihad. And before that, I had read another book called Seeking Allah, Finding Jesus. And when I read this book, this is by a man named Nabil Qureshi, who the Lord took home to him not too long ago. But Nabil was an amazing young man, and he was Muslim and loved Allah. And he had a best friend, David, who was a believer in Christ. And they talked and they shared, and it took years for them to just talk. And he started to examine Christianity because he knew that it was wrong. In his examination of Christianity, he started finding out all these things that just didn't fit with his his Islamic faith. And it was a hard battle for him. But I love this book because when he really sought the truth and he really wanted to know who Allah was, and God showed him who Jesus was. So fabulous book. And then I read this one, which is about a young woman who she was actually volunteered to kill infidels, and how God invaded in her life and what happened. Fabulous book. Both of them are really good. I think the thing that I'm like reading these is get to understand a little bit about the Islamic faith and their heart for trying to the, following after right things. And even, even though there's, we hear about terrorism and stuff like that, that's, many people can be like that. And I get so upset because people are just making judgments against Muslims, and that's not right. And so here, these books help me to understand a little bit about what they believe. And then I can just be part of them and share with them, and they can tell me about their Islamic faith, and I can tell them about my Christian faith. And it's just really neat to learn about people and to grow in your understanding of who people are. And one last book that I want to talk about is a book about writing, because obviously we love fiction, we love to write. Well, we do, and my kids do, and I'm writing a blog on our findingcouragethroughfiction.com website. So this is by Jeff Gerke, excellent author, editor, writer, and he's written Write Your Novel in a Month, How to Complete a First Draft in 30 Days, and What to Do Next. Just a really fun read. It's a lot of work, but it's a great book to help you just to get down. So if you're a writer or a wannabe writer, this is a great book to get, to just say, okay, I'm just going to do it. Whether I know what I'm doing or not, I can learn and I can grow in that. And we have a lot of other writing books on our website. So those are just some of the books that I found this year. And we have other ones, like I said, on our website. Please come to findingchristthroughfiction.com and look and see what we have. If you don't find what you want, just email me at findingchristbooks@cox.net, cox.net, and I can help you with whatever you need. So I hope you'll have a great day, and God bless you.